Hello and welcome to Mining Review Africa, and we are at Mining Indaba 2026. And today I'm speaking to Chantal Murdock, who's a director at Beech Veltman Incorporated, about the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act, the amendments proposed, and the impact that this will have on the mining sector. Chantal, great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now let me start. Can you give me a high-level overview of the MPRDA and explain its purpose and significance to the mining sector?
Absolutely, Gerald. So the MPRDA came into operation on the 1st of May 2004. This is the main piece of legislation that regulates how mining and prospecting rights are granted in this country. What it also does is that it specifically empowers the minister to grant those rights. And additionally, it obviously adds into the act what the requirements are for the minister to consider when they look at these applications. So the significance of it is really twofold, in my opinion. The first is that it recognizes that the department and the state are the custodians of all mineral resources in the country, and they hold, if I could say, they hold these minerals on behalf of the people of South Africa. The second, and something that's very important and unique to the Act, is that it recognizes that ownership and private ownership in minerals no longer exists.
Yeah. So, Chantal, can you explain how these proposed amendments to the Act affects the mining sector? And that includes, mining rights holders, junior miners, artisanal miners, and other stakeholders.
Okay. So, Gerard, the proposed amendments are extensive. So what it proposes, there's a couple of fundamental principles that the current MPRDA wishes to move away from and or to better regulate under the current regime. The first is the artisanal miners and small-scale miners. They seek to regularize those operations under the MPRDA. The second big one is historical residue deposits and residue mine dumps. They seek to also place that under the auspices of the MPRDA. Currently, those particular assets are dealt with as movable assets, meaning they don't fall under the realms of the MPRDA. The next thing is that beneficiation of minerals will be a mandated requirement from the state. In addition to that, the minister will be empowered to make further regulations much broader than what he's currently empowered to do.
Okay. Now, Chantal, obviously mining development depends on investors. Talk to me about, is this a positive move for investors in the country?
Partially, I would say partially, Gerard. So in a way, there's obviously, with these amendments, it's in many respects they seek to change and they seek to better regulate current gaps within the MPRDA. However, there are certain aspects of the amendments that I think bring about some concerns to investors. For example, Section 11 of the MPRDA, the amendments now seek to impose a requirement where any change in shareholding in unlisted companies requires ministerial approval. So as an example, in our experience, when we apply currently under the regime for changes in control, it can take 8 to 12 months to get an approval from the minister. That's something that investors look at as a negative because of the time that it takes to get that. In some instances, people almost want to run the risk of going ahead and just implementing the transaction without it. So these are the types of things that investors get a little bit nervous about. The second thing, which also, may be something that seeks to assist a lot of miners, current miners, is there will be proposed amendments that come in that regulate what's called associated minerals. So associated minerals are minerals that are mined and extracted in the process of mining your normal mineral. So in other words, the mineral that you actually authorized to mine. Normally, when you extract it from the earth, you can't help but extract the other minerals that are associated with that. And so the idea is that if you have a mineral that's associated with your mineral, you can apply under the new amendments to have that incorporated into your rights. The idea is that it's actually going to result in less competing applications. So in other words, instead of having a third person come and apply over your area for that associated mineral, you can now incorporate that into your rights, which will hopefully then result in less conflicting rights applications, which is another big problem that the department is currently facing.
Okay. Finally, Chantal, what should investment and mining companies do to prepare for these proposed amendments?
Okay. So in my opinion, they need to start planning well ahead. These amendments are going to come. Whether or not they're in the same shape and form as what we see them currently, we wait to see what the outcome of that is. However, what is important is that any opportunity to engage the minister that arises must be taken. So, for example, we've submitted comments on behalf of a number of our clients to the proposed amendments under the MPRDA. The benefit of doing this is that the minister is then also informed of the practical realities. So, yes, obviously they draft legislation, but not every operation is the same. So, in one particular instance, you may have a mineral residue deposit that you need to regulate, but it could be partially owned with a third party that may not, in fact, have any rights to that mineral in terms of the MPRDA or to the area. So there's examples like that give you, as a mining rights holder, that give you more insight into how those amendments could potentially affect you. And it's important that you take that opportunity to actually, make comments on those regulations, engage the minister when they have the public forum meetings, etc. And then the second thing that I would recommend is that all mining right holders should undertake a gap analysis in their current operations. And they should see, all right, if the MPRDA amendments had to come in today, where will I fall short? Will I need to, for example, fix my BE shareholding? Will I need to apply for a new license? If I have a mine residue dump, will I need to incorporate it by way of licensing? And those are the types of questions, we would recommend that mining right holders start looking at so they can better regularize and prepare for operations in future. And the reason I say that is because we know for a fact that sometimes these applications take a while to process. So it's all about planning, and you want to prevent poor performance by ensuring that you properly plan your operation.
Absolutely. Well, Chantal Murdock, Director at Beech Veltman Incorporated, thank you for those insights and for joining us on Mining Review Africa today.
Thanks, Gerard. Thank you.